Just because everyone is doing it doesn't mean we're supposed to be doing it the exact same way they are. Be safe, think ahead, and be protected. I'm talking about sex. Safe sex, to be exact. This speech isn't about being celibate, because you can't practice safe sex when you're not having sex. Nor is it about getting tested before you have sex, because this speech is to persuade all of you who have taken the right precautions before getting down and dirty, and this is just about having safe sex. In order to persuade all of you, I'm going to bring up 3 different points. The first of which is, how can I practice safe sex? 2, the consequences of not having safe sex. And 3, why it's important to have safe sex. Ask yourself this question. If I'm sexually active, how can I protect myself? Let's take this question head on. When thinking of the phrase safe sex, one thinks of, hopefully, protection. Another form of protection, or another word you could use for the word protection, could be barrier. A condom, for instance, you would want to compare to a barrier. This barrier prevents sperm from entering the vagina and getting pregnant. Or it's a barrier from keeping one person's STDs to contract to another person. The condom, both the male and female, can prevent these things and can help lower our STI, which is sexually transmitted infections, and our birth control rate, especially because of the fact that so many pregnancies are unexpected. Another form of prevention would be the birth control pill. This kind of protection is basically just for women, obviously. I mean, they're coming up with new birth control gels for males, apparently. I don't know if you guys have seen the news, but if you put on a gel, you become sterile for a while, and there's another gel that you put on, and it, takes the sterilization away or something like that. I didn't really look into it because apparently it was on the news last night, and, well, I didn't want to have to redo my paper. Going back to the condom, you want to ask yourself, am I a perfect user or am I a typical user? To quote Emacs Health, perfect use means using a condom during intercourse consistently and correctly every single time you have sex, and reflects the effectiveness of condoms themselves. Typical use gets at the reality that people may use condoms incorrectly or may not use them every single time they have sex. If someone uses a condom 90% of the time they have sexual intercourse, there is a higher chance of pregnancy than if they use the condom 100% of the time. Not only that, but they go on to state, just for the record, 21% typical use and 5% perfect use of women who use the female condom experience an unintended pregnancy within the first year of use. Condoms not only prevent unwanted pregnancy, but they also help prevent spread of unwanted transmitted infections. On population.org it states, among common causes of disease and health of people in low-income countries, unsafe sex was found to be the second greatest risk factor for health loss and the 5th greatest risk factor for death. The burden of unsafe sex is highest in sub-Saharan Africa, followed by South Asia. Consequences of unprotected sex include transmission of HIV and other sexually transmitted diseases. Back to birth control. Though it doesn't help with sexually transmitted infections, it helps with overpopulation, and it helps with unwanted pregnancies. To quote another source site that I found, 1/3 of pregnancies in the United States are unwanted. That is, 2 million of the 6.4 million pregnancies in 2001 were unwanted. Most recent data, this was the most recent data available that I could find. Over half, 54%, of unwanted pregnancies occur to women in their 20s. And there is evidence that the rate of unwanted pregnancies may be increasing. And since this was done in 2009 and it's now 2010, and they keep thinking that it's increasing, I can only imagine. I couldn't really find anything about this. I was too focused on anything else. Sorry. There are also other sources of information that state the age groups that are being affected most by unwanted pregnancy. On thenationalcampaign.com, it shows a graph that shows the number and percentage of unwanted pregnancies by age group from a study in 2001 as well. The graph shows that women who are in the age of 20 to 24 years old have a 32% rate of having unwanted pregnancy, and this is the highest age group that has unwanted pregnancies. And there's 30 to 34 years old, 25 to 29, and 15 to 19 years old. The 20 to 24-year-old age group, that was 32%. That counts as 651,000 women who have unwanted pregnancies a year. My next point is consequences of having unprotected sex. I'm pretty sure we've all seen the graphic pictures in like the 8th grade or in high school where they show us really interesting graphic comparisons of genitalia once you contracted a disease. Kind of like cereal doesn't look the same way, or glazed donuts, or even applesauce. Unfortunately, I don't have displays like that, so I can only tell you guys that these diseases occur more and more each year based on the information that I found. And this is just those depictions I saw the pictures for things like herpes, gonorrhea, and chlamydia. Finally, let's say that a couple has been together and they've had sex, but they decide not to stay together, and they didn't contract a disease from one another, or they didn't get pregnant. Luckily, they have a higher chance of being in another relationship where they can continue having sex safely, hopefully, and they won't get pregnant or they won't contract a disease. To recap, the 3 points that I have used to persuade all of you to practice safe or safer sex were 1, how to practice safe sex, 2, what can happen if you don't, and 3, why it's important to have safe sex. Hopefully the next time you guys decide to get hot and heavy and probably get heated, you'll think of this presentation, and one of 2 things will happen. Either you'll get turned off and you won't have sex, or you'll reach over for the condom.
Brandy, what did you think?
I think pretty strong in the beginning. You weren't really looking at your papers too much. You made more eye contact with us, but as you tend to progress, kind of felt like you were pulling away. You tried to get back in here and there. It wasn't very fluid, and that's alright because you probably didn't practice it too much. Just a couple more times, I think you would have had it, and you would have been able to keep that eye contact with us. You have very good body language. Your sources are very good. I would have liked to have heard the percentage of people who do actually use safer sex. Then, when I go out there, I know that. But other than that, I mean, you made your points go across very well.
Well, you're letting, I think you coast a little bit on, where'd you go? Oh, there you go. That's okay. I looked up, I thought he was right there, and then he was gone. I think you coast a little bit sometimes on your natural outgoing gift for gab. I mean, you've got a good vocal presentation most of the time. You're not shy about speaking. You can give me the evaluation. That's okay.
Okay.
Don't worry about it. You've got a natural way of speaking to the audience most of the time, so you're not shy or reticent. And I think you let that carry you a little bit sometimes instead of getting as thoroughly prepared as you might be. You're trying to cruise by on, look, I'm not shy about talking to the audience. I'm pretty good with my voice, so that'll carry me a lot of the way. And then the stuff that doesn't get as well prepared, it won't be as noticeable. But there are some things that you do need to do. I mean, you need to get a hold of your information. You're jumping around. In the main secondary points are listed pretty clearly, but on that first point, it went from condoms to something else and back to condoms to something else, and it's like you're all over the place. And so you need to get a little bit more focused there. You go down some side paths occasionally, and it's not a big deal if the side paths are engaging and they ultimately lead to something, but they don't. There are a lot of times when they don't do that. So I just think you need to have a little bit more control of the material. I did like the exit line. It did seem to be something that I've got a thoughtful idea here, a funny way of finishing it off, and that'll make a good point. So I appreciate the effort on that. All right. Thank you.